Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Regan. I wanted to first say thank you for having us included in this process, and looking forward to trying to share some insights with you today. Maybe to give you a little bit of background, um, I grew up in the Bay Area, so I'm a local. I'm a native to the area. I went to high school in San Francisco. I ended up going to Berkeley to get my MBA. I then went on to work at Pandora in nearby downtown Oakland, and now I end up working for Dropbox. And I'll tell you a little bit about more about that as I go here. But maybe just to give you a little more insight about me on a personal basis, I have two kids. I have a daughter in third grade, and I have a son in kindergarten. I can hear them yelling and running around in the backyard right now, as we're all trying to figure out this work from home situation, given where we are with the coronavirus situation going on today. So, and then maybe beyond that, I am a big Golden State Warrior fan. I've been going to games since I was a little kid. So hopefully some of you guys are Steph Curry and Klay Thompson fans as well. So maybe that's a little bit about me. Let me tell you a bit about my role and what I do. So just give you a sense of my job, what a typical day in the life looks like, and my major responsibilities and goals. So I work for Dropbox. Uh, Dropbox, I don't know how familiar you guys are. It's used by 600 million customers throughout the world, and it's in 180 countries. And what it does is it allows you to store your working files, your documents in the cloud, and allows people to access their files wherever they may be throughout the world and keep those files in sync. And we have tools and functionality that allows people to work on that content across many different types of devices, and brings things together where people can store any type of content in Dropbox, whether it's a picture, a video, um, any type of document you guys been working on for school, Microsoft Word, uh, Google Docs, all those sorts of things can be stored and maintained in Dropbox. So that's a bit about what we do. My job, I run the accounting team. Um, so a lot of people probably are listening and saying, I want to grow up to be an accountant. Um, but I'll tell you a little bit about how I ended up in that position. But I do run the accounting team. It's about 80 people spread throughout um, the US and Dublin, Ireland. So I have about 20 to 30 folks on my team in Dublin. And what we really focus on as an organization is, I'd say, a couple main things. One is, I'd call it the transactional side of things, where we pay employees, we pay our bills, we pay the people that keep our lights on and keep pay our rent and those sorts of folks that we have to make sure we're just able to operate with. And then, of course, we have to bill and collect from our customers. So my team is responsible for the money coming in and the money coming out, and making sure we capture all of that in our systems and in our banks and all those sorts of tools that we have. And then I'd say a main role that we play is telling management how we did every month and every quarter. And so we bring all of that information together and we do what's called closing the books, which is bringing all of our financial data, financial information together in in what's called financial statements. And there's a set of standard financial statements that tell you what's happening in the company historically and in the current period. And that's what we share with management every month and every quarter. So we'll tell our CEO and our board, this is what the company did in the quarter. This is how our business is performing. This is what's going well. This is what's not going well. Looking at our financial data. So seeing if our products are selling very well or not, seeing if we're spending too much money in a certain place or not, and figuring out how to use our money as wisely as possible to put the company in the best possible position. And so I think that's one of our main roles is sharing our financial information with our management team. And another aspect of that is sharing that with Wall Street. And so every quarter we report to Wall Street how we did, and that helps us both because we're a public company, um, establish and maintain our stock price, and helps the market value what we should be. And that effectively moves up or down our stock price. And so this is a major thing that is critical for the company that we spend a lot of time on making sure we've got the right set of financial statements and the right financial story to tell the world how we're doing. And then our financial markets that every public company is governed by um, help set the price of our company and effectively moves things up and down, moves the price up and down accordingly. And so it's a complex process involving pretty much every public company and all the various constituents to that throughout the whole country. And so that's a little bit about what we do. There's a lot of layers to it, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavor of what we do. What particular industry is my job a part of, and how does it fit into the bigger picture? So I would say Dropbox is in the tech or software industry. And so if you think about other companies in that space, it's companies like Zoom or Slack, Facebook, or Salesforce, companies in technology where we don't necessarily sell refrigerators, we don't sell physical inventory, right? We sell software. And what's interesting about that business is in not having inventory, it takes away a material part of the process and the material spend. My wife actually owns a business where she makes and sells swimsuits. And so a big part of that process is about getting the fabric and developing the fabric and selling it, having that tangible inventory on hand, where tech and software companies tend not to have too much of that. So I think that's one interesting aspect of the tech industry. Within the scope of my role, I would say, is in finance, where that fits into the big picture, somewhat along the lines of what I've mentioned, as far as being able to align with a standard set of financial practices and sharing that information with our management team and with Wall Street, and all the various teams that are involved in that, whether it's our auditors, whether it's bankers, all those folks typically involved in the finance industry and finance landscape, and we fit right in that. And maybe a couple other things I'll say about being in finance specifically is it certainly helps run a company, right? If we're able to tell our management team this is how things are going, it is a source of truth. It's not an opinion. The numbers don't necessarily paint the wrong picture. They tell you what is actually happening within a given project, within a given attempt to sell products. They tell you a strong point of truth that helps the management team make decisions. And so I find a lot of value in working in finance, because you do get to see through the numbers the truth of what is happening and how you can influence the company growing in the right way. And then maybe one last thing I'll say about finance. It's a skill that I think is always in need. I debated when I was in college studying history. I really like history, and I debated whether I should put my energy towards that field. But honestly, I think that that's a tougher job to maintain over the course of a potential career, where finance I think is always a skill that is needed and is a skill that helps you understand how to speak to many different um, folks throughout a potential career. So it's something I would advocate for. If you have any inkling towards potentially joining a career in finance, I would highly recommend it. I read a book by Phil Knight, who created Nike, and he mentions that he only hired lawyers and accountants because they have a defined known skill, whereas certain others do come with their opinions. Accountants and lawyers have a wealth of knowledge based on standardized skills that that can really help them in their careers. So something to potentially think about for you guys. What do I love about my job and what is tough? What I love about my job is I do get to see the whole picture. So, given that I see everything that's going on in the company's financial outcomes, I know what marketing is doing. I know what legal is doing. I know what our product and engineering teams are doing. I know what sales is doing and how they're doing. And so I get to see everything that is happening throughout the company and help tell that story to our management team and to our external parties, how the whole business is doing. And I think at times, if you're only on one of those teams, you don't necessarily know what's happening in the other areas of the company. Whereas I think that's a fun part of what I get to do. Um, I think we also do get to help the company grow, right? We see what's working, we see what's not working, and we can make sure our money and our time and our investments are going to the things that are going well. And so we can point out to management, here's some ideas as to how to keep growing and how to keep getting better as a company. Um, I've also gotten to be part of a lot of fun things. So one major milestone for a company is when they start out and they're figuring out how to stay alive and turn a bit of start generating revenue. That's they grow from a small company into a larger company, and they really start to ground themselves and establish themselves. And then there comes a time for a lot of companies to decide, hey, should we go public? Should we be part of these financial markets? And that's a big event for everybody that's been part of the company and gets to be part of that process. That's called an initial public offering, an IPO. And as part of my career, I've gotten to be part of 3 IPOs. I was at Dolby Laboratories, the surround sound company, when we went through our IPO. I was at Pandora, the music company, when we went through our IPO, and I was at Dropbox when we went through our IPO. And it's a lot of fun. Each time, it's also a lot of work, but I've loved being a part of that. And I do get to interact with a lot of smart people. Condoleezza Rice, who's a former Secretary of State, is on our board of directors. Meg Whitman, who ran Hewlett Packard, she was also on our board of directors, as is the former CFO of Nike, and many other really, really smart people that I get to learn a lot from. What's tough about my job? At times it's a lot of work. We work potentially some long hours in certain cases. And I would say another challenge is also working with people. Um, I have, like I said, 80 people across the country here and in Dublin, and it's hard to make sure everybody's engaged and growing and learning. And there's always somebody that needs a little coaching, or that maybe they are not feeling well on a given day and they need to take a vacation, they need to take a break, and others have to pick up. And so maintaining a growing, motivated, driven team is always a challenge, and that's a bit on the people side, and it's not necessarily something you learn in school, and it's something you have to figure out through experience and making mistakes and correcting them. So I'd say that's a bit of a challenge. What was my path to getting my job? Were there any hurdles or surprises along the way? What were my passions when I was young? And did they translate into a past or current job in any surprising way? I'd say I've always been interested in money. I remember as a kid, my aunt or uncle would send me money for my birthday, and I would always keep it and save it instead of spend it. And so I would be my my parents and my brother would tease me about that. Ironically, my dad and my brother are both accountants, and so that also, I'm sure, played a major role. Um, and so I followed that path, and I've really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it. I think maybe just a couple other tidbits. Um, I'm also a very competitive person. I love playing sports. I love watching sports, and I think that lends to a lot of different careers. But I can see how I find value in that in finance, where every day I try to get a little bit better. Every quarter, my team, we try to get better as a unit, and then we're always trying to make the company better. So seeing it as a bit of a competition about how we can improve ourselves and our company, I think is another thing that I've always had uh, a young person, and I've tried to leverage as an adult in my career. And so maybe I'll try to wrap up with perhaps some career advice as far as what I've seen be successful in my working days, and I'll share a few things here. So one is treat people with respect. Um, a lot of these things you do learn in any type of school and any type of grade. You figure out if I'm nice to somebody, if I treat them with care and respect, it tends to work out a lot better in a relationship than if I'm mean. Um, and so I just advise that all throughout, right? If you treat people kindly, if you treat people with respect, they tend to respond similarly, and it works out a lot better for a long-term relationship. Another one I'd say is work hard. A lot of jobs you guys will ever have. There's people that will not work hard. There's people that will, whether it's arrive late and leave early and try to get by not doing the best they can. And I think that only hurts them. If you try your best, your bosses, your managers will see that. They'll see it not only in the time and your effort that you're putting in, but they'll see it in the way you improve. And when you practice hard and when you work hard, you get a lot better, and that is only going to serve you down the line. So I would recommend just working hard. Another is be solutions oriented, or just being easy to work with. There's a lot of people I've worked with in my career that ask them to do something or help with something, and they say no, or they say, "Why should I do that?" Or they say, "No, here's a lot of problems with that idea." Versus there's other people that say, "Okay, let me try it and give me a shot, and let me jump in and do my best." And those people that raise their hands and take on a challenge and do their best, they don't even have to get it right. But if I see them trying really hard and doing their best, and trying to figure out answers and solutions as opposed to just telling me everything that's wrong, those are the people that I think, hey, these are going to be really great people for the company. Um, Being positive, it's something that is hard to do all the time. It's hard to do every day. But there's those people that you come into the office and they're grumpy all the time, versus those people that come in and they are making friends and joking and laughing and have a smile on their face to the extent you can. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect, and I know that I'm not as well. Um, just being positive is another trait that I would suggest you shoot for. Um, Aiming higher actually was one of our company goals, and I think that is something that I would advocate for. Always trying to get better. It's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes them. I make them. I still do. And it's about not making the same mistake twice. It's about learning from it, making the right changes and not doing it again. And just in that way, you get better all the time. It's like that. I don't know if you guys go to the arcade and play that whack-a-mole game, but it's knocking out all those different errors you've made throughout the years and continuing to get better and better. If you think about Steph Curry or Michael Jordan or any of these guys, they all started off not being very good at what they do. And they practice, got better, got better. And they ended up doing pretty well. A couple last points and then I'll stop talking. But try to do things with a high level of integrity. One of our values as a company is be worthy of trust. And so just try to do things that are the right thing to do, even when no one's looking. I think that is something that people will value, and that I think ultimately will lead to a long-term successful career. And the last one I would point out is another one of our values was we, not I. It's not about me. It's not about any individual. It's always about the team. And again, you can see this in any sport where it's not about who has the MVP. It's what team wins the championship, and that's what really matters. That's what people really remember, and that's what people really care about. And so, do your part, do your best for the team. It's not always about you, and try not to make things about you. And so, hopefully, that was helpful. That's a bit of what I've be successful in my career and in other careers with people I work with. And for those of you that potentially turn into future accountants, I would welcome you and would like to make myself available to the extent any of you has any specific finance questions. Good luck, guys. Take care, and hope you enjoy the rest of your school year.